My name is Serena Hayes. I'm 28, and until recently, I thought I had my life and my love figured out. I live in a cozy apartment in Seattle, the kind with soft amber lights spilling across the living room in the evenings, the faint hum of the city outside my window, and a quiet sense of routine that makes me feel in control. My boyfriend, Steven Garcia, and I had been together for 3 years. We had talked about the future, marriage, rings, the whole picture-perfect setup, but I didn't know that perfect had been an illusion. I'd been planning something special for his birthday, a proposal I was sure would blow him away, not for me, but for him. I wanted him to feel how deeply I loved him. I had reserved a rooftop venue he'd been mentioning for months. I'd invited his family, a few close friends, and even hired a photographer to capture every moment. I spent hours picking out decorations, planning the perfect speech, even rehearsing my words in the mirror until they felt natural. It was all about him, Steven, and how much he meant to me. Tuesday night, I stopped by his apartment to drop off some of the decorations I'd picked up that afternoon. Steven had given me a key months ago, so walking in felt normal. At first it was quiet. Then, laughter erupted from his bedroom, a sound that made my stomach twist. I froze, thinking maybe he was joking with a friend. Then I heard her voice, Kendra, Steven's ex-girlfriend, along with 2 of her friends, and worse, Steven's voice. But not just normal conversation. His voice coming from a laptop in a video I had sent him on Valentine's Day, a simple message telling him how much he meant to me, how special he was. They were laughing, howling. I felt my chest tighten, the air leave my lungs. Kendra, play the one from last Valentine's again, one of the girls said. Then Steven's voice came through the speakers. Serena, you make every day brighter. They laughed harder. Look at this one from his birthday last year, Kendra said, showing another video. Steven, slightly drunk, singing a song he'd written just for me. Not a professional singer, just him, trying to make me happy. And they were mocking it. Every word, every laugh, every moment we had shared turned into entertainment. I backed out silently, my hands trembling. 3 years. 3 years of intimacy, of vulnerability, of love. All fodder for their cruel little game. I didn't know whether to scream or cry. I sat in my car for an hour, just staring at the streetlights, my mind spinning. Then a decision crystallized, cold and precise. The birthday proposal was still happening, but not the way anyone expected. The next morning, I woke to a cheerful text from Steven. Baby, feeling sad today. Can you send me one of your sweet videos? My fingers hovered over my phone. I almost didn't respond, but I needed him to think everything was normal until the right moment. I sent him a video. Hey, beautiful. Sorry you're feeling down. Remember, you're amazing, and I'm lucky to have you. Can't wait for your birthday surprise. His reply, a smiling emoji. But behind the smile, I sensed hardness, an instinctual caution I didn't blame him for. Step 1 was clear. I had to keep him oblivious while orchestrating the plan. Step 2, enlist Kendra, the very person who had been part of this humiliation, to help me. I called her, explained the situation, and she didn't need convincing. This is insane, but I'm in, she said, fury sparking in her voice. She had been angry at him too, once she realized how they'd been exploiting him for amusement. I contacted the photographer, Marcus, and told him the plan had changed slightly. He'd keep his camera ready for surprises, no questions asked. Guests had to be strategically placed, and family needed to be on board, even partially unaware, for maximum effect. Each call, each message, each arrangement tightened the tension in my chest, but it also felt empowering. I kept thinking about the folder I had glimpsed through the crack in his bedroom door, Cringe Chronicles. Years of Steven's intimate, heartfelt moments, mocked, replayed, laughed at. They had turned love into a private comedy show, but that night, I would reclaim that narrative. The sun dipped lower, painting the city in shades of fire, and I imagined the rooftop where all this would unfold. I could see Steven's smile, bright and unsuspecting. I could see Kendra's carefully controlled reactions, and I could see the moment the truth would hit like a thunderclap, not just for Steven, but for everyone who had laughed at him behind closed doors. It was going to be messy. It was going to be unforgettable, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of satisfaction. The morning after I discovered the Cringe Chronicles, I couldn't eat. My coffee went cold in the mug, untouched. My mind kept replaying every laugh, every mocking comment, every private moment of Stephen's heart I thought was sacred. And yet, amidst the shock and betrayal, a plan had already begun to take shape. I would turn this humiliation on its head. First, Kendra. The thought of involving Stephen's ex might sound crazy to anyone else, but she was the perfect ally. She knew the truth of those videos, had felt the sting of their shared memories being exploited, and, more importantly, she had the charisma to play her part convincingly. I called her, trying to keep my voice steady. "This is going to sound insane, but I need your help," I said. "Insane is an understatement," she shot back immediately. "Do I even want to know what this is about?" I explained everything. The cringe chronicles, the mockery, the plan for the rooftop birthday. Kendra was furious, almost vibrating with rage, but she didn't hesitate. "This is either brilliant or criminal," she said. "I'm in. Just tell me what to do." I smiled, feeling a rush of adrenaline. We coordinated every step. She would appear at the birthday event, seemingly a surprise guest. Her entrance alone would rattle the group who thought they were untouchable. Next, the photographer. Marcus was discreet and professional, perfect for the clandestine part of my plan. I briefed him, careful not to reveal everything. "Keep your camera rolling, no matter what happens," I said. His curiosity was piqued, and he promised he'd be ready. Then came Stephen's family. Some were aware of the tension, some were blissfully ignorant. I reached out strategically, a subtle nod here, a knowing smile there. Everyone would be in place, but only a few would understand the storm about to break. Meanwhile, I maintained the illusion of normalcy with Stephen. Texts, calls, little acts of affection. They had to remain untouched, authentic. He couldn't suspect a thing. "Hey, love," I typed, forcing a warmth I didn't entirely feel. "Can't wait to celebrate your birthday tonight. Everything's going to be perfect." His reply came immediately, simple and sweet. "Can't wait. You're the best." Inside, I clenched my jaw. The contrast between his naive excitement and the plan unfolding in secret made my chest tighten. I felt a mixture of anger, sorrow, and determination. Every mocking laugh replaying in my mind now fueled me instead of breaking me. By afternoon, every detail was falling into place. I coordinated with Kendra over coffee, mapping the timing, rehearsing reactions, plotting the perfect moment for the reveal. She was nervous, her fingers drumming on the table, but committed. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. I met her gaze, firm. "Yes, Stephen deserves better than what they've been doing to him, and I'm not letting anyone get away with laughing at his heart anymore." We laughed quietly at the irony. Hearts and betrayals, secrets and schemes, but the plan felt almost sacred. The rest of the day was spent fine-tuning, ensuring the rooftop was set, the guests unaware of the looming chaos, and Marcus ready to capture every moment. Then, an unexpected complication. Theo. One of Stephen's casual friends from Pilates, a guy I barely knew, slid into my Instagram DMs. "Hey, I heard there's a party tomorrow. Mind if I come by to wish him happy birthday?" I froze. Clearly Stephen had confided in him, or worse, Sienna's, his friend had heard some version of the plan. I replied calmly, "Sure, the more the merrier." No way was I letting an extra person ruin the carefully choreographed timing. Even as I texted, I realized the tension was building to a near unbearable pitch. Each moment brought us closer to the rooftop, closer to the point of no return. I kept imagining the scene. Stephen's unsuspecting face, the gasps of his mocking friends, Kendra stepping in at exactly the right time, Marcus filming the chaos. Every laugh that had tormented him for years would now hit back. Not cruelly, but with justice. I glanced at the clock. Evening was approaching, the sun dipping low over the Seattle skyline. I could feel it in my bones, the storm about to hit, and I would be at the center of it, orchestrating every note. For the first time in days, I felt a strange mixture of dread and exhilaration. Betrayal had a way of twisting your chest into knots, but revenge, calculated, cinematic, satisfying revenge, had a clarity that almost felt right. The plan was set. The pieces were in place, and in the quiet before the storm, I allowed myself one small, fleeting smile. Tonight, everything would change. The rooftop was stunning. Glass railings, twinkling fairy lights, and a view of the Seattle skyline that could make anyone forget their worries. 40 guests had arrived, family, friends, a few coworkers, none aware of the storm about to break. I arrived early, heart pounding, my hands clutching the final decorations. Every detail had to be perfect. Every reaction had to land exactly as planned. Marcus, the photographer, gave me a knowing look. "You ready for this?" he asked. I nodded. More than I've ever been ready for anything in my life. The first guests trickled in. Stephen's parents, smiling and chatting, oblivious to the tension simmering beneath the surface. Then, his sister Margot arrived. She gave me a quick, knowing glance, a silent acknowledgement that she'd suspected something had been off for weeks. And then, Kendra. She walked in like a vision of calm fury, perfectly poised, as if she had rehearsed every step. Her entrance didn't go unnoticed. Stephen's friends, especially the ones who had watched the videos, exchanged subtle, uneasy glances. Penny whispered, "Why is she here?" "I invited her," I said, my voice steady, almost casual. "Problem?" Their mouths went dry. The room shifted, the atmosphere thickening with unspoken tension. I felt a rush of satisfaction. Step 1, complete. Stephen arrived shortly after, unaware of anything but the warm excitement of his birthday celebration. Pink cheeks, bright eyes, a smile that could light up any room. He ran over to me, wrapping me in a hug. "Everything looks amazing. Wait till you see what comes next," he said. I forced a smile, nodding. "Just wait, Stephen. This is going to be unforgettable." Dinner was served, the hum of conversations filling the air. Stephen held court naturally, charming and oblivious, while I watched his so-called friends subtly exchanging smug glances as if they were still in control. But they weren't. Not tonight. Around 8:30, I stood, tapping my glass lightly. The room fell silent, everyone curious about what I was about to say. I took a deep breath, the city lights reflecting in my eyes. "I wanted to say something tonight," I began. 3 years ago, I met someone who taught me so much about love, honesty, and respect. Someone who showed me the importance of valuing those who truly care about you." Stephen's smile faltered slightly, suspicion creeping in. I turned slowly toward Kendra, reaching into my bag and pulling out the small ring box I had been hiding. "Kendra," I said, voice firm but calm, "you've shown me what real loyalty looks like. Will you help me do something incredible tonight?" Kendra stepped forward, playing her part perfectly. The gasp that escaped the room was exactly what I had imagined. Friends who had laughed at Stephen's vulnerabilities were frozen, caught between disbelief and shame. "Excuse me," one of them muttered. What is happening?" I opened the box, revealing a ring that had been part of the original plan for Stephen, my grandmother's ring, now symbolically repurposed. "We're here tonight to expose a truth," I said. All these years, Stephen's private moments, his heartfelt, genuine love, were mocked, replayed, and laughed at for entertainment. The room erupted. Some faces went pale. Margot stood, voice trembling. "Is this true, Stephen?" Kendra nodded, confirming the hidden cruelty. "Yes, he was being humiliated, and it stops tonight." Stephen's jaw dropped. He looked between me, Kendra, and the shocked friends. Some of them tried to protest, stammering about context, about it was just for fun, but the weight of the reveal was undeniable. I didn't propose to Stephen that night, not in the way anyone might have expected. This was bigger than a romantic gesture. This was justice, closure, and reclamation of dignity. Marcus captured every moment, each gasp, each tear, each frozen expression. The friends who had once laughed now looked as if they'd been caught in a spotlight of their own making. Kendra played her role beautifully, the authenticity of her indignation amplifying the truth. And through it all, Stephen remained in the center of it, a mix of shock, betrayal, and slowly dawning relief. He wasn't humiliated anymore. He was validated. His laughter, once exploited, now belonged to him again. The night had turned, not into chaos, but into revelation. And in that moment, I realized, revenge wasn't about cruelty. It was about reclaiming what had been taken and turning a story of betrayal into one of empowerment. The room was silent, every eye fixed on us. The friends who had once laughed at Stephen's heart now looked like statues, caught between shame and disbelief. Stephen's face was a storm of emotions: anger, confusion, relief, and something I hadn't expected: gratitude. I stepped closer to Kendra, letting her role unfold naturally. She spoke with a calm authority that left no room for argument. For 2 years, these private, heartfelt moments were turned into entertainment, she said, her voice echoing across the rooftop. This ends tonight. The gasps were audible. Jade, Penny, and Ree, the trio who had curated the Cringe Chronicles, stared at me like I had grown a second head. Margot's voice broke the tension. Is this true, Stephen? He didn't answer immediately. His eyes, wide and unblinking, flicked from me to Kendra and back again. The realization hit him like a tidal wave. Every laugh, every replayed video, every moment he thought was shared. In intimacy, it had been weaponized against him. I took a slow, deliberate breath and addressed the friends directly. You've spent years mocking someone for loving genuinely. Tonight the tables have turned, not with cruelty, but with truth. The reactions were electric. Penny tried to stammer, but it was just for fun. Jade's hands trembled as she raised her phone, clearly wanting to salvage some narrative. Ree stayed quiet, smartly silent, as the room's tension became unbearable. Kendra, playing her part, stepped forward again. Stephen didn't deserve this. None of us did. And Serena is helping make sure it ends tonight. I opened the small ring box I had been keeping hidden. It wasn't for Stephen. It was never meant to be. Instead, it was a symbol, the culmination of planning, strategy, and justice. The ring was my grandmother's, a family heirloom I had originally planned for a romantic gesture. But tonight it represented empowerment, reclamation, and closure. I want everyone here to understand, I said, voice steady, commanding, that mocking someone's vulnerability is not harmless, it's abuse, and it stops now. And the room's atmosphere shifted. Friends began whispering frantically, some pale, some frozen in horror. Margot moved closer to Stephen, steadying him, while Kendra's presence amplified the truth. Finally, Stephen spoke, his voice low but steady. I had no idea. All this time, I thought... His words faltered. I placed a reassuring hand on his arm. You weren't at fault, I said softly, and you never will be. Not again. The rooftop, once a place of celebration, had become a stage for revelation. The laughter that had once tormented Stephen had been replaced with silence, awe, and in some cases, shame. The three friends who had mocked him now faced the undeniable truth. Their private amusement had consequences. Kendra handed the ring back to me, a silent acknowledgement that the performance had reached its climax. The chaos, the tension, the long years of quiet betrayal, all of it had been addressed, laid bare for everyone to see. Even the peripheral guests, co-workers, and distant friends were stunned. Some murmured about how calculated the plan had been. Others couldn't hide their admiration for Serena Hayes, the woman who had orchestrated the ultimate reclamation of dignity. I looked at Stephen, his eyes meeting mine, and I saw a flicker of trust return. Not the naive, unquestioning trust of before, but a deeper, more grounded bond, one built on honesty and protection, not exploitation. The friends who had once been cruel could only watch as the truth unfolded. There was no denying it, no twisting it, no salvaging their private amusement. For the first time, Stephen stood free of their judgment, his vulnerability respected, his dignity intact. And in that moment, I realized the full impact of what had just happened. This wasn't just a revelation for Stephen. It was a lesson for everyone who had ever thought that mocking someone's love was harmless. And it was a lesson I had delivered, perfectly, with subtlety, precision, and, most importantly, justice. The night had shifted. The birthday, once expected to be simple and celebratory, had transformed into a cinematic moment of empowerment, exposure, and moral victory. The rooftop emptied slowly, the tension lingering like smoke. Stephen stayed close to me, his hand gripping mine, not out of fear, but out of newfound trust. The friends who had spent years mocking him had been left to confront the truth. The Cringe Chronicles were gone, their private amusement exposed, and their cruelty undeniable. Kendra quietly slipped away, her role complete. She had been integral to the plan, but her presence was never meant to overshadow the night's true focus, Stephen's vindication. She gave me a small, approving nod as she left, a silent confirmation that we had succeeded. Stephen's parents, Patricia and Marco, approached us. Patricia's eyes were filled with tears, a mixture of sympathy and anger. "I'm so sorry, Stephen," she said, voice trembling. "I had no idea what you were enduring. You don't deserve that. Not ever. Marco placed a hand on his son's shoulder. We're proud of you for staying true to yourself. Stephen exhaled, a weight visibly lifting from his chest. Thank you, Serena. I don't even know what to say. You didn't just protect me. You made them face the consequences of their actions. I smiled softly, feeling a warmth that had little to do with romantic triumph. This was about justice, dignity, and reclaiming what had been stolen. You don't need to say anything, I replied. You just need to be free from this. That's enough. Meanwhile, the friends who had orchestrated the humiliation, Jade, Penny, and Ree, were left reeling. Some tried damage control, whispering excuses and half-hearted apologies. Others simply vanished, unable to face the reality they had created. Margot stood nearby, shaking her head in disbelief. Some lessons take a lifetime, she muttered. In the days that followed, the fallout continued. Social media had caught fragments of the rooftop reveal. Clips of the confrontation circulated, showing Stephen's vindication and the shocked reactions of those who had mocked him. Public opinion was overwhelmingly on his side, the cringe chronicles finally exposed for the cruelty they were. Stephen and I didn't let the attention distract us. We spent quiet evenings together, rebuilding trust and reinforcing the boundaries that had been violated. Conversations were honest, raw, and healing. We laughed again, truly laughed, without fear of being mocked. Kendra reached out occasionally, a friend and confidant now rather than an ex caught in the past. She had helped turn a painful revelation into a transformative moment, and I was grateful. The friends who had betrayed him? Some reached out seeking forgiveness. Others disappeared entirely. Margot and Patricia, Stephen's sister and mother, were steadfast in their support. The lesson had been brutal but fair. Mocking someone's heart has consequences. As for me, Serena Hayes, I felt a quiet satisfaction, not from cruelty or revenge for its own sake, but from restoring balance and protecting someone I cared about deeply. The rooftop that had seemed like a stage for humiliation became, instead, a symbol of empowerment and justice. Life moved on. Stephen and I continued our relationship, stronger, more honest, and grounded in respect. The people who mattered most had learned what true loyalty and love looked like, and those who had not, they faded into the background, unable to claim space in our lives. In the end, the lesson was clear. Vulnerability is not entertainment. Love is not a joke, and justice, when executed with precision and heart, can transform betrayal into a story of triumph. The cringe chronicles were gone. The laughter at Stephen's expense had ended, and for the first time in years, we were free.